lovely Sunday evening with us as we celebrate this incredible adaptation of The Piano Lesson. My name is Angelique Jackson. I am one of the senior entertainment writers at Variety, and it is my pleasure to welcome out the film family that was born out of this movie. So joining me are co-writer and director Malcolm Washington and stars Danielle Deadwyler and John David Washington. See, now this is the energy that we needed. Thank you. Because truly, this is, it's a remarkable feat. Because obviously, this is important. This is a work that is a part of our culture, a part of our being, a part of really just the fabric of this artistic community, the American community. But it is, August Wilson. It is Pulitzer Prize winning work by the legend. Malcolm, for you, just stepping into all of that I just mentioned, what was it like to begin this process of taking it on?
Well, first, thank you all for coming. This is so exciting to be here. Me and John David are from LA, so bringing the movie here and having such a wonderful audience, it means the world. So thank you. Shout out Atlanta, because
and Atlanta for Pittsburgh. I mean, Atlanta's part of this.
Absolutely. But yeah, stepping into the canon of August Wilson is really exciting, really scary. You're standing on hallowed ground. There's such incredible artists from our culture that have printed their stamp on this. So the thought of adding to the book of August Wilson was so exciting that it was like, okay, you have to jump in, you have to take extreme care of it and give all of yourself to it, because that's what the work requires. It's that important. So I think once we all got together and decided that this is what we're gonna do, everybody just opened up the faucet of themselves and just poured into it.
Tell me about that idea of opening up the faucet of oneself, because Danielle, I know that this play and August Wilson's works had kind of been a part of your trajectory before this came along. So what did it look like approaching Bernice this time, at this age, in this place in your life?
You're at the moment, right? Malcolm and I sat down and had just rich conversation about all kinds of things, but really dug into the spiritual trajectory, the self kind of critical analysis trajectory of moving through a traditional scope of social domestic life into something that's much more non-traditional, intuitive, and just what does it mean for Bernice to get to a true expression of self? We dug into that. It was difficult to, I'm having a challenge in thinking about, it's rough. Yeah.
It's difficult to, this is a relatively short time span to kind of capture all of the things that this woman is kind of going through as she's confronting her legacy with her family, but also her self-actualization. There's a lot of things. And actually, John David, I'm going to come to you, because your trajectory with Boy Willie first began on stage and then came to the screen with what we see here. So tell me, what about him and what he was going through really spoke to you, and then that you had to, redo again, but in a different way for the film?
It was just an ideal situation for an actor to be able to play a character like Boy Willie, to be able to play a character that August Wilson wrote. I felt like a true rites of passage. I knew my life was going to change after this experience, hopefully for the better. I was going to get some information about myself and my relationship to the craft after this mission. So it was such a fascinating relationship Boy Willie has with death and faith in God, and he he says it's in the play. It's not necessarily in the film, but he says that he's overcome death. He's got the power of death too, and he's earned that through imprisonment, through loss, through trauma, through the African American experience, the Jim Crow South. And to tackle that kind of mentality, the fact that he's almost arrogant about how powerful he is because he's overcome death, it could come as a defense mechanism for what he's lost. And I think a lot of what we see Boy Willie is trying to gain, I don't know if it's reciprocity, but some kind of understanding and forgiveness and reclamation, not just for the land itself, but his family and the love that he has for his sister. And I just was so intrigued by that. I thought it was just so beautifully written by August Wilson. There's so many things working at the same time. He's spherical in his way of character description, whether it's interiority or it's how you express yourself literally through the character and his physical nature. So it was just so many opportunities to, it was scary too at the same time. I was terrified.
No, it's a scary endeavor because it's asking you to do a lot, but what you just mentioned about, having spent the time with this work in preparing for the play kind of also allowed you to tap into other things and figure out ways that you wanted to kind of subtextualize what you were doing on the big screen too.
Yes, yes, but in a way that I didn't think. Like I almost had to relearn the story because it was a totally different medium. But what stayed the same was my North Carolinian roots. I believe, Rita, are you here? Oh, she's not here.
Yep.
Okay.
My cousin made a whole stick about coming tonight. and I put so many members of my family, like my family's so represented in this film in a way that you would never even know because it's just sprinkled in corners of every part of it. And Rita got a little shout out. So I made a whole thing about like showing her the movie, she's not even here.
Well, y'all tell Rita.
Yeah, tell her. Rita, tell her.
Well, to that point, actually, Malcolm, didn't in some ways the piano lesson come to you because of your brother about to start this play on Broadway? Tell me a little bit about how this all happened.
Yeah, so when COVID happened, and when the pandemic first came in, we all thought it was gonna be 2 weeks. So we all went to my parents' house, and it turned into like high school again. And we're like, I have a twin sister, we were like fighting over the remote, and like we turned into kids. And in a way that was like really nice because it was such a strange thing to come back home. I turned 30 at this time, so I'm just like thinking about my life in a certain context. And back in my childhood bedroom, it looks the same. Everything feels like my mom's cooking breakfast again. It's like, whoa, it's this strange thing where you have this perspective to come home and you know what it all means now. And you've left the house and you come home and you have a certain kind of perspective. And part of John David's process, he was preparing for the play, he was just writing out a bunch of his lines. He was preparing. He disappeared corners of the house and like get to work, and we're like, I'm watching a movie, I'm doing nothing, I'm bored. And one day I started finding his paper. He just had these papers all over the house. I started reading them, and there were these really incredible monologues, like really incredible ideas. And I had never read the piano lesson. I knew about it, but I never read it until that point. And that was like my end. I was like, what is this thing? So I asked my mom, I'm like, what's happening? What is it? And she's like, here, read the book, you should read it. Like, this is the time, you have time, you should read it. And at the time, I was also digitizing my family photos. I was building out our family tree and trying to understand who I am, my life, in the context of those that came before me. So when I read the piano lesson, at this time in my life, everything just like clicked. It was like, whoa, this is a big thing you have to deal with. You should think about this, the ideas in there. And that's kind of how it came to be for me. It was thinking about my family, being with my family, and seeing my brother prepare for this thing that brought me to make the movie.
And obviously those are the big themes of this story, is that idea of, this family is actually physically coming together for the first time in some time and having to kind of be forced to come together to reckon with what we get to see cinematically is actually, Sutter's ghost, but what Sutter's ghost represents. So Danielle and John David, for you two, as you kind of dug into those family dynamics and what it would be for this sister and brother, what were some of the kind of touch points for you as you prepared solo and then prepared to come together?
Specifically, touch points for how
for where they are in this story. So where Bernice is coming from, in particular, when it comes to this central debate over what their family legacy is.
Yeah, I don't think she had any particular understanding of it quite yet. She's not reckoned with it at all. He's an urgent gust of wind busting into the house, forcing her to deal with something that she had tucked away. We're talking about the loss of two parents, and one in a hyper-tragic way and the other in a slow, progressive way that she had to witness, that he has no idea about. And then one that he is very much more aware of in the death of Crawley, that she hasn't gotten complete answers on, and hasn't seen or heard tell about him since that occurrence. And so it's a lot of unanswered questions with regard to all of this loss. And we didn't have conversation about that. We just came with a particular kind of understanding and reverential research and appreciation for each of our characters and the dynamic of the family when it came to working and wrestling with it.
I think Malcolm set a great tone for us. I mean, he literally lit a candle while we were doing a table read and just had these white overalls on. It was just a beautiful environment to create, and I think that just gave us permission to find it and gave us in a very vulnerable state, permission to fall and get up and try it another way. He was never suggestive in a way. He would like something, or he would find a way to maybe have you try something different. But it was finding it. That was the part of it. And in our sort of exploration, I think the beats that he used, we were finding as it was going. It was interesting. I'm glad we didn't really talk about it that deeply, because it worked itself out when the prize fights were happening.
Yeah.
Because that was the point. He's been in prison so long. They haven't been able to talk about this since 1936. I love the fact too that August Wilson is saying, it's like those were the times he didn't talk about certain things. Well, this family is. That's why we're showing up to watch this thing, because it's all getting aired out in this living room and in the kitchen and everywhere else in the house. And I love that part about it.
Yeah, I just think that with a text like this, it's so, especially for Black actors, they know this work. It's been a part of their rearing as artists for so long, and I think what we were ultimately trying to do was honestly add another journal entry into it. So we wanted to come with some kind of new perspectives and open idea of discovery every day, and I think I credit them so much because, especially, well, all the actors, but especially the ones that did it on Broadway, to still find a way to come in and be open to the energy that was coming in, because we had a bunch of new people coming in. There's so many new elements. I wasn't part of Broadway. Danielle came in, Corey Hawkins came in, and let me tell you, when they come in, it's like the energy in the room changes. It's like that thing when you're in the house and a door closes and the pressure in the room changes and it opens another door. It's like, whoa, you have to acknowledge this thing, and they were so open to playing that game of tennis with each of them. It was wonderful to watch.
Tell me about watching those prize fights as they were described, because that is truly what is happening as this kind of tension continues to escalate between these two. What's it like being on the other side of the camera?
It's the best. I love making movies. I think my spirit is like an instigator. I like to just wind up both sides and then just watch it. It's like did you hear what he said to you? Did you hear that? So if you have that inclination already, then watching two great actors with great material and standing on really solid ground, each of them is, we've been talking about this idea of justice, this idea of everybody trying to do the just thing, the right thing, and in many ways act how they see it, act for the best interest of the family. And they're saying, ooh, I'm sorry about that.
Don't like it, they don't like it.
We're trying to exercise some demons
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Please, sir.
Somebody needs some healing in here. But standing on opposite sides of a coin, but with the same objective, the same aim, and ultimately there's so much love that ties them together. But but it was so wonderful to watch that. Two people that are like, I know I'm right, and I'm misunderstood, and you're not hearing me. And just watching that go back and forth, so.
How was he stirring the pot in terms of each take to take? If he saw something that he liked or something that you're like, okay, you know what, I'm really feeling this, I want to dive into it more.
I'll jump in. There's some straight up gumbo making when we were doing the action scenes. He was definitely stirring the pot. Like when I was on the wire work and I'm fighting the ghost, we just kept doing take after take for some reason.
You gotta find it.
I was taking after take too. It was a take after take after take time. For every take.
It was
every scene. It was a taking time.
Danielle is not gonna do it today, but she was doing an impersonation of being on set.
What did I do?
We're not gonna get into it.
Oh, we're not getting into it. Let's move forward.
I mean, we gotta get into it. You can't just bring it up.
No, but anyways, incredible actors. We love the film. Exciting stuff.
John David, I will ask about the wire work, because that is one thing, obviously, cinematically, we can really explore more in the film is actually Sutter's ghost and what that then looks like. So what did that mean for you in the execution of those scenes at this climax of the film?
Well, I mean, we choreographed a fight. You know, there's a hallway when he's getting his butt whooped, and you know, it was interesting. Like even going through that, like how that would affect him mentally. Like all the spirits that are coming up. There was like a pain, almost like a sharp pain, like a headache almost, that he was dealing with while trying to fight this ghost. So there was a lot of that going on, flipping myself, like crashing into walls and stuff like that. And then the wire work. I'm not a fan of wire work. I don't know if anybody has ever done it before, but it's stressful on the body. And but you know, for the art, that's why we do it.
But that's why I give them so much credit, because that end sequence is like, there's so many elements in this film, right? There's so many conceptual things that are happening here. There's so many tough, dramatic asks I'm asking of them. And in that sequence, each of them had to go on this journey spiritually in the mechanism, in the machine of filmmaking, where it's broken up over a certain amount of days. There's a physical element with the wire work. There's a physical element in Danielle, you know, stepping outside of her own body. And conceptually, we're trying to tell the story of Black American spiritual practice, right? Of West African spiritual practice and Black Southern Christian traditions coming together. These two spiritual practices that can be in conflict, but finding concert together, you know, and that's something that I thought was really wonderful in each of their portrayals of it, where Danielle's in this, you know, this white dress, waiting for this flame, and the idea of the ancestors coming, and all these traditions that harken back to West African spiritual practice. And John David, Boy Willie's character upstairs, fighting with himself, fighting spirituality, and ultimately his ancestors come too. And what do? Is they lay hands on him. You know, like something in the Black Christian church. Like we know what that means. You know, so the idea of these two things merging and them existing inside of us and empowering us in a way, just felt like such an incredible ending, and to have the trust of them, the commitment of them, and to where they each went in their performance to make all of this come together was just like, I would do anything for them.
That was an incredible sequence too, just being able to see where Danielle went. She went somewhere else, like for real. Yeah. And also, I gotta shout out Corey, because he started speaking in tongues to start the scene. That's not in the screenplay either. It was incredible, and I'll never forget. I'll remember this the rest of my career when Malcolm yelled "cut" on a very long take. It was emotional. All that. We had a producer, big time producer, come in, and he was in tears. It was just floored, and was telling everybody how he felt about that day. It was incredible to see.
Danielle, I do want to ask you. I can't really specifically ask you where did you go.
We're still looking for it. We haven't seen it.
I'm no cartographer.
You gave me drawing us a map on that one. As much as many actors in this room wish they could follow in your footsteps. What was your experience of shooting that sequence?
I'm very aware of certain West African spiritual practices. I am a child of a Methodist church in southern Georgia. And when you go to church in southern Georgia, you go to a lot of churches. You go to Pentecostal, you go to the Kojic, you go to the three-member house at somebody's crib or in a hotel. I think these spaces parallel what it means to be a part of, a makeshift dynamics in Black Southern, churches, and then what it means to be a part of a Yoruba-based extension in various African diasporic spaces and places. And when you talk about the making of hoodoo, right, this has been a part of my academic research and understanding, a part of my artistic, spiritual rearing, and it's some combination of that and then something that is completely unknown. It's a strange, dark space to be in because something is calling to you and you are calling to it whether you actually speak it or not. And we lived and reigned there. I don't recall a whole lot of it, but I do know when everyone who came in who were representative of the ancestors, I know that spoke volumes. You understand, it's an emotional thing to understand the extension of you. It's remarkable. And then Malcolm and David, our production designer, have implemented literal, personal iconography in the work. The Washington family is on the piano. My grandparents are in, photographs in the house. I mean, you're literally in a house space that is calling unto your DNA. That's powerful. It's a really beautiful, remarkable thing. And we already have this weight, this beautiful weight and pressure to make this reflect August's origins, to reflect the transformative nature of us generationally, to hold the weight of Sam and Michael Potts, right? And then you think about all of the people who made a way for you to be here, to be doing the thing. I feel that pressure and that weight all the time, to be a Black person in America. It's a remarkable responsibility.
And it's truly a responsibility that you all took so incredibly to heart. And Malcolm, I will end with you because I do also want to note that this was your feature directorial debut. So I know you spoke about, the pressure of adding to the canon and what it meant to add to that. But I guess now that we're kind of on the other side of it, you've gotten a chance to speak to some people about this film and, kind of take it out into the world a little bit. How does it feel? What would you, maybe how would you describe the legacy of this film as you intended it and now as you've seen it play out?
That's a big question, and one that I honestly don't feel equipped to fully answer because it's beyond me now. I feel extreme gratitude. I feel extreme gratitude to have made it. I feel so grateful that audiences are engaging in it, or watching it, and hopefully taking something from it that they'll consider the people that came before them in their lives, their ancestors, and how the role that they play and the lessons that they learned from them, and decide whether to act on or to act in some way or another based on what was made for them by the people that came before them. And I feel grateful from the entire legacy of August Wilson, all the Wilsonians. We had the opportunity to bring the movie back to Pittsburgh, to the Hill District, and so many great artists that inspired me and made a way for us. to engage in them and them welcome our entry.
And also your mama feels pretty good about it.
My mom, shout out my mom, exactly.
A beautiful tribute to her, to the legacy, to August. Thank you all so much.